Hey guys, well in front of you is the newest Camelbak Antidote version. This is the military version of the civilian Antidote, and I wanted to kind of go over a couple features with you today, simply because my earlier video of Wolfpack, one of the Fireline packs I'd been testing, had an older version of the military Camelbak in them. In that review I sort of ranted a little bit about not being able to close off the bottom port here with a valve, like my 6-liter bladder. Actually, I'll put that review there for the 6-liter. The line pack review will be up there. With using the 6-liter bladder, I really appreciate being able to lock off this bottom valve so that I can take the drinking tube and leave it wrapped through the pack and just take the bladder itself and go fill it for the day. After contacting Camelbak for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to encourage them to make that 6-liter again, because especially for folks out in the field, it's almost a minimum having 6 liters without having to deal with 3 liters without a resupply, working 16 hours a day that we do for wildland fire. That aside, the nitpick that I went through in that video was the ability to not have to unwrap and undo the entire drinking tube and just take the bladder with it. Well, the civilian version of the Antidote had gone to these quick disconnects a little while ago. It took a little bit for the military version to catch up. If you guys know, I've been running the Platypus 3-liter Big Zip for quite some time. I really like the lightweight, the ease of opening, a really nice big wide mouth on it, and it uses the quick disconnect. So as you can see, there's nothing hooked into this, and there's no water leaking out. So Camelbak has finally come through, and they have just reversed the quick disconnects, and so that the female version is part of the bag. So now none of the water leaks out of here when you disconnect it. Brilliant. So now you can take the bladder out, go fill it, do whatever you need to do, and come back. This is the 100-ounce short version, so it is wider and less pronounced once it's full, which I appreciate. They do have a long, skinny, long version if you'd like, especially if some of your bladder sleeves in your pack only accept these long, narrow ones. My biggest complaint with the Platypus here is because once it is full, it is almost as big as an Nalgene, and it definitely takes up room in your pack. And if your pack is small enough, then you can actually feel that on your back. Camelbak does a terrific job separating it here to help keep the sloshing down and help really spread that 3 liters out across your back, which I appreciate. A couple other quick features: that they've sort of lightened up the handle for filling. The opening is pretty wide. Even with my giant hands, I can kind of get my hands in there for cleaning. The best feature that they've included here is just a quarter turn and it's off. You put it back on, you line up there, and a quarter turn back and you're locked. There's no more threads to undo, which will really help keep the sort of lid keeper from getting out of the dirt and whatnot, but it also keeps that from breaking. The whole twisting and having to screw on some of the older versions, I think, is what would lead this to break, which most of mine already have. But if you can actually line up the little arrow here and then quarter turn, and you're done, completely sealed. Everything else is pretty much standard from some of the other ones that I've been running. Still quick disconnect here. It still has the bite valve cover, which is great, and it still actually has the hydro lock, so you can disconnect, no dribbling, or when you stop for break and this gets depressed, you're not running fluid down onto the ground. So it gives you an idea side by side of a little bit of the size difference. This is the original one we talked about in the Wolfpack gear review, the one you'll find online quite often. And then if you look for the newer Antidote version of the Mil-Spec Camelbak, this is in the short, and so you'll see it is actually quite a bit shorter than this guy. It's also quite a bit wider. So try to keep that in mind when you're actually thinking about what kind of hydration sleeve that this is going to be going into. Of course, you can get it in the tall version if you have a version similar to the old Platypus, or the tall, skinny version. So you can order that. I believe they just call it the long. The last thing I want to discuss here is, so obviously the bottom here is completely different. They're reversed male to female connections. And like I said, that solves a lot of the problems with having to take this off and none of the water comes out. If I took this hose off of here, water would go everywhere. Hence why there's water everywhere right now. The problem is the last video I did on a Camelbak product was the tactical pump, and then the earlier Beast 6 liter that I did, I discussed quite a bit of the filter that's involved. My biggest issue, being a reviewer that actually wants to use their stuff in the field before they start showing it in front of a camera, is this is now not on their website. I can't find it on MSR or Camelbak. The other thing this makes null and void is the fact of using this with the newer version. As you can see, the flow rate goes this way, so the connections are backwards in order to utilize this filter. For $9, I did find a conversion that they use for their Squadback bladder, which is a 25 liter bladder. They use it on the side of their trucks to fill these remotely, and in order to adapt to the newer stuff, you're going to need the adapter. So in order for me to use their inline filter that doesn't even exist anymore, I'll have to get a $9 adapter to go from the male end to the female end to connect into here to make this work. So it's a little bit annoying. I'm just hoping that maybe they don't have this on their website because they're sort of re-engineering it with, you know, the reversed connections so that it can work on here, or perhaps maybe they didn't find that it was worthy. The only filter on Camelbak's website is this ridiculous thing made for, you know, housewives and mall crawlers, is something that takes the, you know, chlorine taste out of your drinking water. Nothing that you could actually utilize in the field, which I think is just ridiculous. Anyway, that's my little rant. The other question I've gotten quite a bit is whether the same quick connect connections will work on the platypus / Sawyer, and that answer is no. They are similar, however they don't actually line up and they will leak. So of course nobody wants to have a universal system. You know, it's one of my nitpicky things. I can't stand when companies do that kind of thing. They want to be proprietary in their own thing, so only their stuff works. It's one reason you'll never see me with Apple anything in my house. But there you go, rant off, a little bit of comparison. Great little features, quick little update. I'll put this video link in the Wolfpack gear review, simply because that little bit of gear rant is a null issue now that Camelbak has you know, sort of improved their products. So this is the new Antidote military version from Camelbak, and again, Camelbak, if you're listening, we want a 6 liter just like this. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. This is Beast signing off.